Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Linda. I'm your Back in the Groove Again coach. And I do these lives and they're not scheduled. I'm one of those coaches that will, uh, will come up with, will have a thought and go, well, I've got to share this. So that's what's happening this morning. I woke up this morning thinking about all the stuff that's going on. Good morning or good afternoon. I woke up this morning, and you can type in the chat box where you're from. It'd be great to know. So I woke up this morning thinking of all the stuff that's going on in the world. We'll just specify in the world. Good morning, Felix. And yeah, I didn't know what was going on in the States until a friend from Mexico told me, she was listening to all this stuff, and I'm going, what stuff? What are you talking about? Because I don't pay attention to the news. The only time I hear news really is when I go for in my car to go, somewhere. Otherwise, I don't really know. And this wasn't, I didn't hear it in the news. I did a quick search because I was curious. What's going on? Anyways, so after viewing what I've seen, I thought, when I woke up this morning, I woke up with a knowing that things take time to change. I woke up with that knowing. And I want to share just a brief story with you to inspire hope in you if you're going through a difficult time. I remember years ago, and I might have shared this here and there during my other lives. I'm a Back in the Groove Again coach, and the reason I became a coach was because I went through a really tough time in my 20s and 30s and even before then. And I had to learn to change my life. And eventually, I got coach training and thought I'd become a coach to help other people. So years ago, and I was a single parent, took care of my kids. They were little when I split up, and went to university, worked full time, worked full part time, went to school full time, took care of the kids. It was nuts. I was, seriously, it was like a really difficult time doing it all. But I did it. I did it. I managed. And at that time, and I'm going to share something that I've never shared with anybody publicly like this before. At that time, I was using a substance for recreational purposes only. And it was only for recreational purposes. It was a lot of fun, and that's all there was to it. And then as my life continued and I had different types of things going on in my life, like when my mother got sick, she had dementia, and I decided to have her move in with me. I used that substance every day because my mother was driving me crazy. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but she was a sick woman. Unfortunately, she had dementia. She was living with me. My kids were teenagers by the time, and I couldn't manage it. To be honest with you, I couldn't manage it. So I used this substance to help me cope, to help me numb what the heck was really going on. So, and my kids at the time were still going through some regular teenage stuff, but I know now that I was blind to a lot of things that were going on in my kids' lives because I was so preoccupied with, and I was still working full time at the time, so preoccupied with managing what was going on. I remember one day, this was Christmas a few years ago, quite a few years ago when my mother was with me. We went to visit my brother and his family for Christmas. And my mother came with us, of course, because she lived with us, right? She lived with us. So I brought my mom with me, kids. And on our way back from that trip, I remember asking my son to drive because my mother, who was in the back seat at the time, was driving me crazy with what she was talking about. And my brother had given me something. And I said to my son, pull over, you're driving, I'm going in the back seat. I smoked pot. That's what I'm talking about. I smoked pot. That's the substance that I was talking about, if you're curious about that. So I asked my son, pull over. My mother was driving me crazy. So I went in the back seat and I lit it up. My mother's beside me, going on and on and on. But I used that substance to detach myself from what was going on. Now, that was years ago. And I'm not here to talk about the benefits of using that. I'm here kind of to talk about not using it. The point is that over time I changed. My life changed. My life went from different periods of craziness to having to make adjustments to that, to other periods of craziness. When I was in school, it was a crazy period. And then when my mom lived with me, it was another crazy period, and I used the substances even more then. And there was a point, especially after my mom was becoming more sick and she was living with me, that I said, that's it, I can't do it anymore. And basically, I burned out. I really did burn out. I had to go to the doctors and I had to tell him, I didn't tell him what I was doing. I didn't tell him I was smoking pot to tolerate what was happening. I lied to him at the beginning. Actually, I didn't lie. I just didn't tell him. Uh, and so he really, at that time, didn't want to give me a slip, sick leave slip. But I went back home and I thought, I got to do something about this. I can't go back to work. I'm not in shape to go back to work. So I finally fessed up to the doctor and I told him, and then he referred me to a psychiatrist. Anyways, I ended up by going on a sick leave. And from that time, that sick leave time, that time that I was officially not working, I got some help. I'm not going to describe the kind of help. The point is that was the start of the changes, the ongoing uh, changes that I needed to go through to eventually become, who I am today. Now, it isn't so much about me, but I wanted to share that story about you, about me to you, to tell you that sometimes change takes a long time. Like, what's happening right now in some parts of the world. Some people have been going through heck for a long time, both personally and maybe as a country. And that change, I think it's finally happening. The point is that change takes time. Change takes a lot of time. Change personally, personal change takes time. Sometimes days, sometimes months, sometimes years. And sometimes things don't change because people choose not to change. So I'm here to tell you, listen, when I decided to, and it was a decision that I made, when I decided to start making those changes, I learned different skills, different techniques that gradually I did. And sometimes I did them a lot, at the beginning. And I shared some of that with on my other lives. Sometimes I did them a lot at the beginning, and sometimes I didn't think I needed them. Now, to tell you the truth right now, because I've already shared that I used to smoke pot every day, I made a decision in 2009 to quit. I quit. I quit. So I haven't smoked pot since 2009, October 5th, I think. So, and since then, now I'm just using pot here as an example of a bad habit, because when we use something to mask other things, whether it's pot or other kind of drugs or substances, or whether it's overeating, whatever that bad habit is, at some point you're going to know that it's not working for you. You know what I mean? It's just not working. And how did I know at that time? Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Like over time, I slowly made changes, but I went back to it back and forth a few times. I'm talking about going back to pot a few times. And there was this one time that something happened, and I looked at the person that was next to me and I said, no, that's not happening anymore. So, making a decision sometimes uh, can happen instantly, but sometimes you need a few different things to happen in your life to finally say, that's it, I'm ready to make a change. And it's what some people might say, it's a straw that broke the camel's back, or it's, I was on the fence for a while and finally I'm, it was there was a tipping point. Whatever you want to call it, there is a point in one person's life, well, they will decide, that's it. I don't care. I'm making it different. I'm making a change. And I'm hoping that for you, whoever's watching this right now, I don't know who's still watching me right now, but whoever's watching me, is this still you, Felix? Are you still watching me, Felix? I don't know if you are, but at some point in a person's life, I hope you get to that point where you say, that's it. That's it. I'm sick and tired of whatever I'm doing. You might not even say it like that, because when I made that decision to change, to make a big change, I didn't say I'm sick and tired of this. I just made a decision because I had been thinking about this for some time. I just made a decision and stopped and got some support, and I had already learned some new techniques already. But then I started learning other techniques, and I'm still using those other techniques now. So change takes time. Change takes time, but I do believe that at some point you have. Oh, hi! Thank you. I wasn't sure. Thank you. All right. So I revealed information about me here that I've never done before online, but I wanted to say this because I want to shed hope that whatever you might be going through, whatever you might be using to mask whatever's happening inside you, there will be a point where you might be saying that's enough. And I'm not talking to you right now, person that I know. I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking in general. But whoever is listening, you might get to a point you say, that's enough. I have to make changes. And then you start making those changes. And then you continue to make changes. You drop certain things, you add on things that are helping you make those changes. And you keep going in life, right? I mean, this is the way that any long lasting changes occur. We learn tips and tricks and tools and strategies along the way, along this continuum, I should say, of change. And then eventually we find strategies that sits well with us, sits well with us. For example, years ago, I wanted to learn more about Reiki. So I took a Reiki 1-day course. And I tried it. I tried it momentarily. I tried it on myself. I never did use Reiki on somebody else, but I tried it on myself. And you know what? It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. So I stopped using it. So you'll notice that over time there are certain strategies that work good for you and other ones that don't. But if you stop believing that it's possible for you to get the sense of peace, if you stop believing that and you stop looking for what works, then you'll go back to possibly your old patterns. All right, I'm being serious about that. I've never gone back to smoking pot. Now, I'll have to tell you, and I want to be politely honest with you, because of all this stuff that's going on now, holy moly, man. Holy moly. I thought about it. No, I wouldn't not use it. but I'm aware that it's now legal, for God's sakes, man. You know what I mean? Now that's pure craziness. That thought is pure craziness, and I recognize it now as pure craziness, and I recognize it now as that I'm vulnerable, just like we all are vulnerable right now, and I know that it's an available source, and I know that there are other available substances, like alcohol, for example, that I could use, purchase for real. But I also know for me that it numbs me. If I take too much alcohol, I'm gonna get drunk. I'm gonna get a headache the next day. I don't want to go there, man. You know? And this isn't my life today isn't about what's right, what's wrong. Because, whatever you do is working for you now. Whoever is listening to me, even on the hashtag replay. And if you are listening to me on the replay, please write hashtag replay. Because I'm not talking to whoever is listening to me now. I'm talking to whoever is viewing me at any time. At any time. Whatever you're doing right now is working for you now. And that's all you need to know, right? That's it. That's all you need to know. But at some point, and I truly believe that at some point, things don't always work. If they continue working, that's great. But I'm thinking of that continuum, and as we go on in life, and we're talking about years, because I mentioned at the beginning that change takes years. True change takes years. Now, will I ever go back to my bad habits? More than likely not. But in the 12-step models, they always say one day at a time. And I've learned those mottos, one day at a time, keep it simple. I've learned those mottos through those 12-step programs, and I believe in them. I really, really do. So I can't say, will I ever go back to smoking pot? Probably not, but you never know. You know what I mean? Life is crazy, and our world is crazy, and there's no guarantees in anything. I can tell you right now, that's how I feel now. So, whatever you're doing now, if it's working for you now, that's great. That's really great. Now, if at some point you're going, it's not working for me, then you start looking for help. I'm going to encourage whoever's watching me now at any point, if you think it's not working for me anymore, then you get help. Get help. Get help. Now, I'm a coach. There are wonderful coaches out there. I'm a wonderful coach. But there are therapists too, if you think you need a therapist, because coaching and therapy is not the same thing. Coaches don't go back in time too much. Now, I might use a question similar to, has there been another time in your life that was similar to you? I might use those type of questions, but it isn't the same reason as what therapists do. So we use powerful questions to help our clients reflect on what's happening so that they can start becoming more aware of that and move forward. It's all about moving forward with coaching. So if you think I need help, you might have to think of what kind of help do I really need, and if you're not sure, I say talk to coaches, talk to different therapists, because first of all, every coach is different. Every coach is different. Every therapist is different. Um, it's hard to find probably a very traditional therapist now. I'm talking about a therapist that would use purely Rogerian therapy. Uh, Most therapists would probably use an eclectic approach, right? And most of them would probably use a brief solution therapy approach, which is, what's the problem? Let's find solutions for that, which is a great approach. You might hear the dog in the background. Um, but if you're in a situation where you think you need help, then I would encourage you to get help, to ask around, shop around, man, because we're not all the same. You know, this is who I am. You've heard me talk before. I hope you've heard me talk before. This is who I am. And if you've ever talked with me alone, you'll know that this is who I am. When I do a live, I try to get people going on certain lives, but at the end of the day, I'm not one of those, woohoo! I am when I have to be, but when I'm with somebody individually, I'm really not. This is who I am. So you might like my approach. You might not like my approach. The only way you're really going to know is by spending a bit of time with me, over a Ignite Your Groove, Back in the Groove strategy session, for example, right? And other coaches offer similar type of conversation sessions where you can get to know them and you determine whether it's a good fit or not. So I'm inviting you, if you think you could use a coach, and if you think that coaching is, the best way for you, then you can send me an email. Right now, I'm not going to send you the link to the calendar, but you can send me an email at backinthegroove at gmail.com, and I'll send you the link to my calendar so that we can book some time to chat. I call this my Back in the Groove uh, strategy session. So there's possibilities out there. There's hope out there. So I don't want you to be struggling. I think struggling is good at some for up until one point, up until you go, that's it. I've had enough of this stuff already, and I can't struggle anymore. Struggle is, to me, struggling is, it's a way that our body, that our mind, that our spirit tells us that we need help. I really believe that because I have gone through different struggles. I've shared a couple of episodes of my life there recently in this life and in other lives too. So struggle is not necessarily a bad thing. If we view it from the perspective that I'm struggling right now, that means, okay, something is going on. And if you know what you could do about that, and most people will reach out to a friend, and they'll want to talk to a friend, then do that. Whatever you think you need to pass through this struggle. But in the long run, you might need more than just talking to a friend. That's what I'm talking about. So if you think you could use a conversation, even to just talk a little bit about and find out, how I work, please send me an email at backinthegrooveagain.com, and then we'll figure out if we're a good fit or not. Right now I do have Accelerate Your Groove 90-day program that is going to be starting in January. And by the way, I'm going to be offering this program in French in March as well. I was going to be offering it in January in French, but I can't. It's just too much work to translate all the stuff that I want to translate, and because I'm actually offering not just a weekly support, but a lot of webinars on the platform, webinars on self-sabotaging, and webinars on procrastinating, and I'm including a webinar on what is emotional intelligence, and another webinar. There are so many webinars. A webinar on discovering your genius, discovering your talent. Another one on mindfulness. So I've got a lot of great stuff for the English one. It's almost ready. For the French one, I'm going to have to wait till March because by the time I translate all this stuff, it's going to take me some time. But I do plan on offering it in French. That's a promise to c'est une promesse à mes amis francophones puis mes clients potentiels francophones. C'est une promesse. Je vais vous offrir quelque chose à longue durée de 90 jours au mois de mars. So that's what I want to say. I started at the beginning. I wanted to say to you that change takes time. And it's really a matter of knowing that it takes time, because it does. No one changes from one day to the next. When I shared to you that I decided to quit smoking 10 years ago, yeah, that was a decision that I made fairly quickly. But it's not like I just thought about it just like that. It's something that had been brewing for a long time. Just like the decision, I didn't share this, just like the decision that I made to quit my job in 2018. It had been brewing for years. So change takes time. Once you make that decision, some people make decisions and then they go back and it's okay. But sometimes you say, that's it, I'm done. I'm making a decision, and then you move forward. You don't go back. When I started moving forward, when I made my decision to quit smoking pot in '09, it was moving forward from then on because I noticed, I shared that with my kids. I noticed that I was no longer self sabotaging because I used to self sabotage all the time before. I would maybe drink too much the night before and have a headache the next morning and then cancel whatever I had going on, because I've always wanted to offer coaching and always wanted to offer uh, webinars and programs. At the time there was more uh, one day workshops, right? And I offer programs as well, long-term programs, but there was always something that was holding me back from actually doing it, and there was self-sabotaging. I don't self sabotage anymore, or when I'm about to, I notice it, I'm aware of it, and then I make a decision to change that. So that change takes time. It takes a lot of time. So um, you might decide I need to do something different. Good for you. Start looking at what you can do different. Get the help, like I was sharing. And I know that you're just joining me now. Thank you, everybody, for watching me on live right now on Facebook. Watch it from the beginning because I am sharing some personal information that I've never really said out in public before. My friends know that, but not anybody else. So take a look at that, and I'm encouraging you to, if you do need help, to get help. And if you think I might be a good match for you, send me an email backinthegroove.com, and I'll send you the link to my calendar. I want you to get back in your groove, and I'm hoping that you do find your groove. I'm hoping that you can find ways to ignite your groove. I'm here to help you with that. So thank you for listening. I want to do a little meditation now that usually starts at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to have to leave my live now and bid you adieu. And I will talk to you on another time. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.